I made my electronic one
That
frozen.
does not look like you guys.
Oh, sure doesn't. Really.
Call to order the school committee meeting for Tuesday, January 14th, 2014. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. We start out tonight with the high school representatives, Leslie Camillo and Ann Potter. Microphone, please. Hold it to share it. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having us this evening. Very briefly, just recently the freshmen had their student council elections to vote for their representatives, and 5 have been voted in, and so we congratulate the 5 winners. And then the sophomores, this coming March, it's a big event, so we're planning it a couple months in advance, but we're planning a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. We've just recently talked to Mr. Colantonio, and he's approved that we use the OMS gym to host it, and it's going to be involving both the high school and the middle school, so we're excited to have that upcoming.
All right, and for the juniors, we have an iCrease fundraiser coming up on January 25th from 1 p.m. to 5. And we're also looking at places to plan our junior semi-formal. The seniors are planning Mr. SHS, and they're having sign-ups for that this week. And then for student council, they're having Cradles to Crayon. We're visiting the Cradles to Crayon factory on February 2nd. And then our Massachusetts Associations of Student Councils conference is coming up in March. And this past week on Friday, we had a very successful movie night for the elementary schools.
Oh, great.
Oh, nice.
That's pretty much all we have so far. Sorry we didn't prepare more. Yeah.
Do you know when that 3-on-3 tournament is going to be held?
We hadn't set an official date yet, but Mr. Colantonio said sometime around mid-March. And we planned this so that it's in between sports seasons, so it wouldn't conflict with any basketball players, and it should be right after to show that there'll still be a little hype about some of the winter sports seasons.
Sure. Great. Any other questions?
We are so pleased to have you here.
We
are. Would you introduce yourselves again to each?
I'm Leslie, and I'm a junior.
And my name's Adam, and I'm a sophomore.
Great.
And I spoke with them just before the meeting started about perhaps an expanded role for the student representatives, as per actually the law, which says they would receive packets and all. We just haven't worked through the logistics, so we'll be talking to their advisors and working through those details.
That'd be great.
Yes. So
Great.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad to have you. Public comment period. I have Mr. Souza signed up to speak. Mr. Souza, would you please come forward and, well, actually, let him have the microphone so he can do his public comment. And you're welcome to stay, and rejoin us at the table once public comment's over. Mr. Souza.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. People who don't know me, my name is David Spanky Souza.
Got it.
I was the chairman of the 2013 Christmas Parade of Lights. I'm just here to say thank you on behalf of the Stone Community Events Committee for allowing us to use the school, working with us. Big kudos to Joe Harding and his crew. Joseph DeVito Jr. was a custodian here. The people out in the parking lot, he showed where the bathrooms were. We had coffee for the people, for the participants, and everything else. It was just a win-win situation for everybody. Joyce, I want to thank you and Dr. Earl's not here for marching in the parade. It was a big event, and hopefully more people can come out next year. And my next thing is I'd like to know what's going on with the schools. As a parent of the school and a graduate from Stoughton High School, I am a Black Knight. The schools are going from, some of the schools went from a 2 to a 3 merit. The IEP programs in some of the schools, more than 3 or 4 schools, the elementary schools, are having problems. I know you guys have problems with teachers' contract. It's none of my business, and I understand you can't talk about it, and I'm okay with that. But the teachers stand up. You ask the teachers to stand up, the teachers stand up, take credibility. The students do the same thing, and the parents. Now I'm asking the school committee, superintendent, assistant superintendent, to do the same thing. Stand up, fix the problem in our schools. I want the best schools in the country. That's all I ask. Thank you very much, and have a nice night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the agenda for this evening. The agenda this evening begins with, and this is very exciting, and you know the year goes by so incredibly fast, and we're already at the point in time where we need to solidify next year's high school program of studies. So Principal Juliet Miller is here to explain to you what next year's program of studies is going to look like and the various things that they've taken into consideration when creating it. This is an informational presentation, and this is not a matter that requires a vote. It's the principal's responsibility to design and implement the program of studies. And this is an opportunity where she gets to just give us a sense of the things that are going to be going on next year. And perhaps if Mr. Fitzgerald would close that door for noise purposes. Ms. Thank Miller, you. take it away.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
For being here.
Always enjoy to come to these meetings and explain or show and brag a little bit about what we're doing at the high school, so this is a great opportunity. The program of studies, again, is a fantastic work that is comprised of countless conversations and manpower and lady power to put together a program of studies that does our students well. We have some significant changes that are coming forward for next year, so I want to talk about those just a little bit to give you a little bit of context about the program of studies, so that as we go through it and I explain some of the changes, you'll have an idea of why and where they're coming from. So, as you might recall, in March of 2011, we had our NEASC visit here, and one of the, or several of the recommendations that came from that report was regarding our bell schedule. There was a great dissatisfaction among the faculty, the students, with our bell schedule, and parents were displeased with the bell schedule because of the way we were being forced to run classes. Students weren't getting the classes they wanted. They often had to make some tough choices, and students will still have to continue to make tough choices in some cases, but we hope that with the program that we're moving forward, those choices will be far less of those choices. They should be able to get more and more what they want. So because of those recommendations about the bell schedule, the entire school year last year, we had a scheduling committee put together. It was all volunteer. We had almost every department from the high school represented there. They were given a huge task. We have a lot of programs at the high school that demand a lot of our schedule. We wanted to put in professional collaboration time for our teachers into the school day. And we had a whole bunch of other considerations to take into account. So next year, we're moving to an 8-period schedule, which is different. This year, we have a 7-period schedule. 7 periods meet every day. It's a 6-day cycle. It has a slight rotation. A couple of the periods rotate amongst themselves. But next year, we're moving to something far different. It allows for our students to take 8 periods of classes, which is about 40 credits each semester, or should be 40 credits each semester. This really allows for them to meet all their graduation requirements and still be able to take electives. With only 7 periods, students didn't have the opportunity to take electives because they were filled up with all of our required courses. And so, because I strongly believe that a well-rounded education is really important for our students, and this is the only time in life that they're going to get a free education, they should really have the opportunity to take advantage as much as we can offer them. So, we're moving to an 8-period schedule, so we want to think about that as we go through the program of studies. And then the other piece that is a big change for us is that last spring we had a visit by the state. And from that report that came from that visit, they talked specifically about the pathways level courses at our high school. And the recommendation is that we eliminate pathways because they are not preparing our students for life after graduation. And so the leadership team, I want to give them some kudos, because the SHS leadership team, which is comprised of our administration, all of the directors at the high school department, and a couple other positions, really worked this year to think about how we might be able to do that without wreaking havoc, and being able to make sure that we can support our students in the way that they need to be to make those changes, and support our faculty so that they can really run those classes in the way that they need to be run. So we are eliminating Pathways level courses for next year. You will see some Pathways level courses are still in there. Those are our support labs. Our academic labs, our math labs, our English labs, our bio labs, instructional labs, and those are okay. In the state report, it stated that Pathways level courses were okay and suitable for classes that were support classes and not the classes that they would take just all their content in. So keep those two things in mind as you go through these program of studies. Questions so far?
I have a question. So,
Sure.
so this business and career technical pathway, that's going to be eliminated, or just a support?
No, it's just unfortunate that a long time ago, when the cash
Everything is a
program,
pathway.
It is, when the cash program was created, which is the careers pathways that you're speaking of, Dr. Brown, they used the name Pathways, which is different from our Pathways level course. So those business courses are all still running.
Right.
The only courses that aren't are the ones that in the old program of studies, the one that we operate on this year, with that had a course number that ended in a P.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And then a question I have is that on page 12, when it talks about course levels, it refers to pathways as basically remediation. They're taken in addition to a college level course.
Yes.
So is that going to be eliminated?
No, those academic support labs, the math lab, the English lab, the academic labs, and we have something called REALS, regular academic lab as well. Those will all remain Pathways level. Those are support classes. Students take their regular content in a college level course. Those labs would be in addition to, so it would be additional time in the content.
Okay, but they're still going to be called pathways?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So the first big change is on the page that lists the graduation requirements, which I believe is on page 7 in your program of studies. And the couple of changes here. You see that in 2016, 2017, and 2018, under science, it now says 3 years of lab science. It did say that last year as well, but it also had a credit associated to it. It was 18 credits. But our science classes are moving back to 5 credits because we are taking away the 1 out of 6 day lab cycle that they were currently operating under. And so they're moving back to have the same course time as other classes, so they have to be worth the same credits. So they're going back to 5 credits. So rather than try to figure out, how many credits that would work out for our students that are already current in the building, it just says 3 lab sciences, which is equivalent to whatever credits it would work out to be. Okay? And then under the class of 2018, that whole column obviously is new. But then underneath there, we have recommended that we move up to 120 credits for the minimum total credits needed to graduate. If you remember that we're going to an 8-period schedule, 40 credits a year, 120 is completely obtainable. Underneath that table, we have also added a description of what kind of history courses our classes of 2017 and beyond need to take. Last year, we moved to 17.5 credits for our class of 2017, and so we wanted to make sure our students and parents understood that what those 17.5 credits is made up of is a world history, a US 1, a US 2, and then a semester course that they could take either in their junior or senior year, America since 1980. Which is almost like a US 3. Any questions on that? Okay. So one of the problems with our schedule, the way we were running it, is that we had too many different kinds of meeting patterns. We had classes that meet every day. We had classes that meet every day for a semester. We have classes that meet every other day for a semester. We have classes that meet every other day for a year. We have classes that meet 1 out of 6 days. We have classes that meet 2 out of 6 days. So you can imagine that when you have all those different kinds of meeting patterns, and you imagine a puzzle with all different sized pieces, it's not going to fit together. So kids get closed out of classes, and they can't take it even, and they end up with all these structured learnings because they can't fit anything in, which is not beneficial to anyone. So we have simplified that, and all of our classes next year will either be every day for a year or every day for a semester. The only exception will be our support labs. Our support labs, our English lab, our math lab, our academic labs will have the option of running every other day, and we can play those off of each other. So the changes that you see in the business department primarily have to do with trying to make courses fit together. We have a department of 4 in the business department. They are extremely eager and very enthusiastic and would like to add more courses to the program of studies. But with a department of 4, we have to make sure that we don't create a situation where we can't teach anything, because we have too many kids selecting too many options and we can't actually fit it in for them. So to try to make those courses fit together, we have made them mostly semester courses. So our changes, accounting went to a semester rather than a full year class. Our entrepreneurship went to a semester. Our introduction to media went to a semester. And then also, in order to make sure that we have enough, we can run enough sections of different courses, the retail marketing class and the entrepreneurship class will rotate years. They'll alternate years. So one will be offered this year, one will be offered next year, and so on and so forth. We do that right now with Latin as well. It works really well. It gives the opportunity for students to know which year they'll be able to take it, and they plan for that accordingly. After attending a professional development opportunity, our business teachers came back. They were highly inspired, and they were knocking down my door and wanted to teach a course called Digital Foundations. This class is something that will give all of our students basically a foundation to be able to use technology appropriately through their high school career, allowing them to use Google Docs, First Class. They'll be given a little thing on PowerPoint and all the different technology they'll need to be successful. And because, again, we want all of our freshmen to be able to take that, we're actually offering that for a term. Now that sounds funny because I just said we're moving every day for a semester or a year, but that's going to play up against their health class, which is also a term. So those two pieces will fit together. Any questions about that? Okay. So moving into the English department isn't really offering any new courses for next year. The one notable change is that the sci-fi and tales and suspense and horror course is going to move to the college level. It was previously a pathways course, but it's a course that our students value, they get a real lot out of, and it's a course that we would like to keep. So we're moving it up to the college level, and we'll adjust our curriculum and instruction accordingly. Any questions about that? Oh, all right, I'll just keep moving then.
Yes.
You can stop me if you want. Fine arts. Really, for fine arts, we had to do some changing of how we offered courses. Band and chorus was one of those courses that we broke apart into several different pieces, simply to allow as many students to take the course that could possibly take it. But now that we've simplified our meeting patterns, that should not be a problem. And so all of our fine arts courses that used to sort of be every other day, or 1 out of 6 or 2 out of 6, are now moving to an everyday cycle, whether it's a semester or a full year course. So any changes in the fine arts department have been highlighted. That's because we simplified their meeting pattern. We did add one new visual arts course, a drawing and painting 2. Last year we added drawing and painting 1. This year drawing and painting 2 replaces art 2. So it was a course that we had offered last year, and we're kind of going into it, trying to be more consistent with the courses that we're offering.
So the students like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much. For health and PE, the only change was that health moved to a term. This year, we had to offer it in a way that matched up with what we were doing. So it was 2 out of 6 days for a semester. We would like to be able to offer our students a little bit more health education than that. It's moving to every day for a term.
Mm-hmm.
In history, the only change in history is that our current events course is moving to an every day for a semester. It was originally every other day for a semester, but that doesn't match up with anything else. In math, we have added some math instructional labs. We added one for the 9th grade, the 10th grade, and the 11th grade, which could also be taken in the 12th grade if needed. That will work on content-specific mathematics, either Algebra 1 or geometry, but also cover some MCAS prep as well. The science department is probably the department seeing the most change this year. That's because we are eliminating that 1 out of 6 day lab cycle. What makes a lab science is not the amount of time that you have for content, but what content you're actually teaching, the curriculum that you're using. So our lab sciences will still remain lab sciences. We are just taking that lab piece away. And so that means that all the credits for all of those courses that were originally 7 times out of a 6 day cycle are now moving down to 5 credits. We also added an environmental instructional lab for the 9th grade students. That's a support lab. That's to support our students who may need it. And we changed our oceanography class and our astronomy class to college level. The only other significant change is our AP science classes are 10 credits. And that's because originally, in this current schedule, we are running them 9 times in a 6 day cycle. So they get a significant amount of additional time. The only way to be able to accommodate for that kind of curriculum and instruction is to actually offer it for 2 periods. So students who want to elect AP Sciences will use 2 periods of their schedule, which works out to be about 90 minutes of instruction of science a day.
Good question.
I did have a question. When I look at the science offerings and particularly the requirements that are coming on down the line, and the fact that we have only 3 labs, 2 of which are capable of chemistry, and when I look at the requirements, it looks like there's going to be somewhere around 800 students taking the science classes, science labs. So how is that going to work, and how are they going to fit in, and what are the constraints that that you see?
Yes, we definitely, with the building the way it is, we do have some constraints. We do have 3 chemistry teachers, and they share 2 lab spaces. We have to be creative with scheduling, of course. It does pose some problems and some conflicts. Our physics classes, for example, one is in a physics lab and one is in a classroom that has become a physics lab. So there are some inequities in what instruction can be, techniques and strategies and activities they can use in those classrooms.
Can I ask how, at what level of science is chosen to actually be in the working lab as opposed to a classroom?
It varies. Our AP physics classes are in the physics lab. Our AP chemistry classes are in the chemistry lab. Our AP bio, it would be in a room suitable for that as well. The other courses, it is the luck of the schedule of where they get placed. It's a great reason for a new building, to be able
Sounds like it.
to build science labs and classrooms that would make our education equitable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, excellent. And I don't think there are any other changes that we are looking for next year. Our school council voted to accept this program of studies at our last meeting. Like I mentioned, it is the product of countless hours and conversation and research and best practices, so we're very proud of the product we have.
Now, Dr. Urel.
Hello again. Thank you for coming. This is like a deja vu all over for me again, because I was able to ask you questions last week. So the statement I made last week is that I'm delighted that we are doing pathways, doing away with those pathway classes. And then you had answered my other questions last week. But the other question I had, I asked you if a student wanted to take an AP level course and that he was qualified to take it. You told me that we always have a room for him in the AP class. Is that true?
Yes, there could be some conflicts. They might have to make some tough decisions, but we
I have to
run.
give something else, but like
Yes.
if he wanted to take AP chemistry, he could.
Yes.
And what about the freshman high school students coming in from the middle school? Would they also have difficulty getting into AP classes of their choice, or is that more difficult?
Well, we don't offer any classes for the 9th graders at the AP level.
No?
Our APs begin in the 10th grade with history, and then they don't really open up until the 11th and 12th grade. That's where we offer English, more history, and our sciences in the 11th and 12th grade.
So we don't have a 9th grade AP level science class?
No, sir.
Oh, I thought we did.
No.
You
We
learn
have
something
honors.
every day.
We have honors,
see.
which would be our highest level in the freshman
Would it
class.
be easy to get into those if you're qualified?
Not as a freshman.
Not as a freshman?
No, there's a lot of prerequisite work that has to happen
So
before
they
you
have
get
to
into
pay
there.
their dues.
So to speak.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I had a question. With the 8th period that is on the table for negotiation, what would, in terms of the length of a class time, how is that changing from the 7th to the 8th periods, and what is the how is the time in the classes being shortened?
Okay, good question. So right now we have 7 periods, and all 7 meet each day. So they are about 48 minutes each. That's give or take a couple of minutes depending on where it falls. And then for next year, we're running sort of a modified schedule where we have some days that are blocks and some days where all 8 periods meet. On the days that all 8 periods meet, which is 4 out of the 8 days, classes will be about 42 minutes each. Mm-hmm. And that gives us enough time for passing, lunch, and all the other things that need to happen. On the days that only 4 classes meet, there will be 90-minute blocks. So it would. We used to have a long block schedule many years ago where it was rotating through, and it's very similar to that idea where you have this long block of time. It allows for our 21st century learning. It aligns with what Common Core would like us to do. It gives teachers really a great creative space to be able to do a lot of hands-on activities and such. But you're looking at about 42 minutes on the 8-period day and 90 minutes on the 4-period day.
Okay.
So they're losing
a couple more
about 6
questions.
minutes of class time each period.
And that's if we're trying to put it in the current.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then I had a question about the fine arts offerings, and that is that when it's great that there's another course that's being offered, but it's mostly 2D work rather than 3D, and there's such a high correlation between taking art courses and performance in science and math. And I'm wondering what the possibilities are for offering things like sculpture or
Yeah, it's
clay work.
It's definitely part of the vision
3D,
of the Fine
more
Arts
advanced
Department.
3D.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Kearns, I know that's part of his vision. It's part of our vision to offer a more comprehensive art program, fine arts, visual arts program. Currently, we don't have the space to offer any additional art courses that would require more equipment or more work. We do have a kiln which allows them to do some pottery and some of that kind of sculpture. It is located on the opposite end of the building from where the 2 art classes are. That is for ventilation purposes. So it's not utilized as often as we would like it to be utilized, but they do use it. I think with a new high school building, we would be able to create spaces that would allow for more of the kinds of things you're looking for.
And then 2 more questions. One is the SAT prep course that I know is being offered. How does that work with the schedule, and how do parents find out about it, and how do students sign up for it? And is that outside the school day, or can that take place during structured learning? Or
we do have a SAT prep course being offered during the school day. We have it this year, and we're going to have it next year as well. It falls under our English elective offerings in the program of studies. It will run next year every day for a semester. Parents can find out about it by opening the program of studies and taking a look at the English offerings. I know that our guidance department talks it up, and our English teachers and our other teachers talk it up as well. It's really an important class for them. This year we saw an increase. We haven't been able to run it over the past several years. We haven't been able to get the the numbers that we needed to be able to justify running the course. But this year we have several sections of it, so we're really advertising it well, getting the word out there. And I know that our Director of Guidance is working really hard to bring some other SAT prep programming to Stoughton High School students, and she's actually speaking to someone right now, not right at this hour, but is speaking with somebody to organize that for our students and to use the high school building outside of the school day for that purpose.
So this is only for English classes. I'm sorry, Deborah. That's
Anyone
for
can-
the English
it's run out of-
part of the SAT.
Yes, for right now it is. We do need to get some math SAT prep as well, and that will be coming down the road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And when will that be coming down the road, the SAT math prep? Just wondering what your vision is.
Well, we are right now focusing on the content areas that we need to. Math is one of our areas that we need to improve in and grow a little bit more on our MCAS. And so we're utilizing our faculty to focus our attention on that. If we can add a staff member down the road, I think that would be when we can start to add more additional math classes to our programming.
And then my final question is if it's possible to offer more social science electives so that students have a broader exposure to different subject matter or potential career or academic paths that are offered out there,
Yeah, definitely.
like anthropology or archaeology or some blend of history and social science.
Definitely, that we do have definitely room to grow within the social sciences. Again, that would come down to adding the appropriate staff that have that kind of knowledge base. We don't have anybody on staff right now, I believe, that has any anthropology or history.
Thank you.
background. Yep.
Are there other questions? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, just one question. You said currently we're at 7 periods per day at 48 minutes a day. And then we're going to an 8-period schedule, right? And we have 42 minutes per class, okay, at 8 periods. And then you said we have 90-minute classes.
Yes.
4 days, 4 periods in a day for 90 minutes each. With 4 periods a day at 90 minutes each, that's 360 minutes in the day versus 336. Where are we getting the other 24 minutes from?
It's not exactly 90. It's like 88,
Oh, okay.
but I'm
Be
rounding.
multiples of 42.
I'm rounding for the sake of your time.
Oh, okay.
They would all be multiples of 42?
Or plus the passing time?
Yeah,
that you're-
it works out a little bit differently. If you only go to 4 periods, that means you only have 3 passing times. So you have some extra minutes there,
So
which
it's not going to extend the day,
No.
technically.
Our 8-period schedule that we have proposed is with our current hours, 7:35 to 2:12.
I think
Oh,
the
go ahead.
students were concerned at that other meeting I came to, the students were concerned about the variability of the lunch hours. Would you like to mention about those, your answer to that?
Sure. What's nice about our current schedule is that period 5 meets every day during the lunch block, and so students know what lunch they eat every single day. Next year, that won't be the case. We have different periods that will fall in the lunch period. It'll either be period 5, 6, 7, or 8, and it rotates. So the students are a little concerned about not knowing which lunch they will go to. But the lucky part for them is that on 4 of those days, they will report to class first anyways, and then be dismissed to lunch from there. So they'll only have to get used to it for 4 other days. So we'll work out the perks. And they'll get used to it probably before our faculty and our staff do anyway. So
They usually do.
yeah, they're pretty quick.
Can you describe for me how the new schedule will help you with professional collaboration and what that means, in terms of benefits to the students and parents, but also just kind of how many periods of time teachers will be able to collaborate as a department?
Yeah, to be able to nail down exactly how often they'll be able to meet is challenging right now, just because I don't know how it will all play out.
Sure.
On paper, it works fantastically. Right now, we have 7 periods. We were able to give some professional collaboration time to most departments.
Okay.
But you have to, once you start getting into the whole master schedule, and I won't bore you, it's hours long worth of discussion, but there are a lot of things that tie into it, and there are a lot of constraints, and the more constraints you put on a schedule, the harder it is to build a schedule. If you only have 7 periods and you want common planning time, that means you're taking all the English teachers out of one of those periods, meaning all their English classes have to meet in the other 6. And if you do that for each of the departments, now you're forcing classes into other departments. With 8 periods, that just gives us one more period to play with. And so we have a little bit more opportunity, a little bit more flexibility to be able to offer things. If we were able to do it with 7 periods for the majority of apartments, imagine what we can do with 8 periods. And then this really is a benefit for our students because they will have the opportunity to take electives. For our freshmen and sophomores this year, they don't have the space in their schedules to take electives. They're taking PE, and they may have one other elective if they are lucky. And chances are, if it's band, it's sort of chopped up, and they may be taking 2 out of 6 days, which certainly doesn't do our music program any favors. It's very hard for our 2 instructors who teach music, who are excellent at what they do, Mr. Coombs and Mr. Mange. It's very challenging for them to one day have 50 kids and the next day have 35 kids, and they're trying to teach them all the same songs and play together. So with the new schedule and the 8 periods, a lot of that's going to be alleviated, and we're going to have much stronger programs for our students. And with the opportunity for them to take electives, they are going to be able to take, even as a freshman, they have up to 4 different electives they might be able to take, or 4 spaces for electives that they may be able to take, either 4 semesters or 2 full year, which is something they've never had the opportunity to do before. So it should allow us to reduce the number of structured learnings we have, which are our study halls essentially, which on the flip side of that allows me to give our teachers more time. The less structured learnings we have, the less time they're being eaten up in duties, which is really a goal of mine as well. They are professionals and they should have the time to do what they need to do, which is prep for their classes and meet with each other. And if we can eliminate some of those structured learnings and some of those duties, that means they have not only the professional collaboration time that we can build in, but they'll have more time as well.
Dr. Brown?
I like the fact that you're treating all of the educators as professionals. I like that, first of all. Second, in reference to piggybacking off Ms. Hussaini, does the high school have common planning time by content level, or do they have it by grade level?
Right now, we're by content level for the most part. We do have some mixed professional collaboration, and that's basically because of how the schedule fell out.
Okay.
Ideally, down the road, not only would we be able to offer professional collaboration time for content, but also for grade level, and even then get even more specific into just courses would be fantastic as well. So,
Joyce?
Dr. Ural?
I got one more question. It's just the math of it. So we said right now we have 7 48-minute long periods.
yes.
And then we are going to
Like 48,
move
give or
to
take.
8 times 42 minutes.
Same
So the difference is 6 minutes.
No, it isn't. Same number.
6 minutes per period difference. And then 8 classes, 8 times 6, what is it, George? 48. So the amount of time is about the same. So we are just shortening each period and then increasing the number of classes.
Yes.
So are we going to be able to do the same depth of instruction or learning, or is there like a governing body like a Department of Education have a requirement for the course has to be period has to be this long? If so, what is it?
Yes. The Department of Education does not have any requirement on how many minutes a week you need for a particular content or course or class. They just say that you need 990 hours of instruction in a school year. And with the 8-period schedule and the way that it's designed, we will actually exceed 990 hours in the school year of instruction, which is wonderful, because if you have days where you get dismissed early or you lose a day, you have some time to play with. So we make that 990. Actually exceed it. I think it's 1,006 or something like that.
What about the colleges? Do they look at the length of each period? Because if they are getting a student, they are looking for like an engineering school, they will be looking for a student with a good background in engineering, the math and the science. So they don't look at
They
those,
don't look at the length of the period. Every school is so drastically different one from the other. I recently took part in some training for our master schedule with Pearson, and he was describing the variety of schedules that they see. No one school does it the same. So everyone has a different amount of minutes for their classes. What they look at is your program of studies, what you're offering, and your credits and your rigor. So that's what they're focused on when they look at our students.
Ms. O'Bany?
Yes, I had one more question. That was with regard to special education. So, first off, kudos for all students with special education needs participate in MCAS testing, because I know that even some adjoining towns actually don't do that. But my question goes to when special education students are transitioning out of the high school, how does the special education department and the high school work together to help them transition out, to help them leave and move into the into the work or academic world? And do we offer any kind of internships or actually, I know we don't offer any internships, but has that been considered?
For our special ed students?
Right.
We start the transitioning program for our special ed students long before graduation. When they're ready and when they have their skills, we begin to do those programs where, right now it escapes me the different names that we have, but we use a variety of different resources, and we bring our students to where they actually get some real work experience. So we do sort of, if that's what you mean by internships, we do have those experiences. We have several different programs that we run right here in the high school that help with that transitioning program, where students learn life skills. They do, we use our kitchen for cooking, and they take field trips. They learn how to use, our bus system, public transportation. So we do quite a bit in terms of transitioning with our students, and that starts long before graduation for them. I feel like our special ed program is very strong, and they work very well with the community and with those parents and those students to effectively educate those students and prepare them for life after high school.
And on what kinds of jobs and for how long are offered? Are these just simply going into the workplace, or is this where someone can work in a law office or wherever?
It varies, in the specifics of which jobs they are. I'd really have to consult with Ms. Tucker about that. But we definitely have quite a bit of opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joyce?
Dr. Earl?
Just to follow up on this, all students with special educational needs participate in MCAS testing. So you actually make them take the test, or you do the alternative evaluation of the MCAS?
All of our students participate in MCAS. We do have a very small population of students, very small, who do portfolio, which is the alternate. It's very small. In fact, last year I think we had one student. So the majority of our students sit for the MCAS exam itself.
With accommodations.
Right.
I'm sorry, I was just looking through my notes, and I have one last question. That is, could you explain a little bit the Stepping Stones credit recovery and what that means and how that works?
The Stepping Stones Credit Recovery is a program that we're able to offer here in a couple of different ways, but we often use a program called Plato. It's a computerized program that we can individualize to what the student needs in order to recover credits. Students might need to recover credits for a variety of reasons. Either they missed too many days of school and lost credit in that manner, or, which is 10, this year and next year, students who miss more than 10 days of school lose credit in the course. So they'll get the grade that they earned, but they lose credit. So that does affect a population of our students. So Stepping Stones Credit Recovery is an opportunity for them to recover that credit so that they continue to move forward. And it also applies to students who may have failed a course and need to recover some credit as well. It is offered during the school day. We're able to fit it into structured learnings. We can also offer it where they can do the work outside of the school day. And we run that sort of our business department basically has taken that and run with it, and they are often the ones who help supervise those students that need that credit recovery program. And it varies. Again, it could be Algebra 1, it could be health. We also use it for students who are medically excused from PE. So that allows us to provide them with a physical education curriculum since they can't physically be in the gymnasium.
Joyce?
Dr. Ural.
Thank you. Just this is a great discussion. Now, wasn't Play-Doh the one of the tools we used in the Pathways courses we were recommended to eliminate from our program?
Play-Doh?
mistaken?
I think you're mistaken.
Am I mistaken?
I think so.
That wouldn't be the first time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Brown.
So our credit recovery students, they graduate with the regular student, with the rest of the population.
Yes.
So we don't have a designated graduation thereafter if they're not. Okay.
No. We do obviously have a small population of students that graduate. They earn their diploma after the graduation
Okay.
date if they have to do summer school or whatnot in order to get their actual
That's what I was
diploma.
concerned. Would they have another chance to graduate if they missed their initial graduation?
No, and a lot of those students actually, depending on how many credits they have, they can still walk during the ceremony
I get you.
and then get their diploma
Makes
afterwards.
sense. Thank you.
I actually have a question. Since I told our student council reps that they're going to have a more active role, I have a question from a student council rep. So if Adam, you'd come forward to the microphone because the public does have to hear.
I know this was asked earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt, so I didn't want to.
Could you hold the microphone up?
And the question is involving, since we're talking about the scheduling of the school, is that not only have I seen this, but also some of my peers who have talked about this, was that with the new schedule coming up, we were wondering if there would be an expansion of some of the APs offered in a social science. Because we've noticed that there's if you want to go into a math or a science field in college, there's multiple APs you can take in both math, science, and of course there's English too. There's, with the exception of AP American History, which is a 2-year class, but with the exception of that, there's really no other APs in the histories. And with colleges now wanting you to take APs in high school more related to what you want to go into instead of just taking a wide variety, they do, but since they want focusing on more what you want to go into, is there any planning for an expansion of the AP history program?
Excellent question, Adam. We have talked about AP Psych in particular. Another one is AP Economics, it might be the official title. We talk about these regularly at our leadership team meetings and our faculty meetings as well. We would love to see more AP programming brought in for our students, especially in those areas. I guess I would go back to my answer to Ms. Savani when I said that it would require a little bit more staff in order to be able to start to look at those programming. We want to make sure that we can offer our required courses. That would have to be the priority, obviously. And then if we can offer those courses and we have the student interest and we have the bodies to do it, we would definitely be interested in bringing that in.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great.
Thank you.
Really, really great program.
You sure there's not one last question?
No, but I see that
My
you're on
notes
the
are
agenda
done.
for the next several
I
items.
am.
So I would definitely
Yeah,
say
one
maybe you
last
wanna
question.
stay.
Do you have any scholarships to offer to the school department?
Yeah.
I think that's next.
Dr. Rizzi.
There are several scholarships and donations for you to accept this evening,
Okay.
and I'm going to recommend that you accept all of them. 2 of them come through Ms. Miller, and so as long as she's here. Do you have them with you? Do you have them in front of you?
I do.
Would you like to read the amounts on the scholarships, the names of the scholarship, and then if you would be so kind as to read the criteria so that everybody can hear it?
I would be happy to. We have a scholarship that is being offered called the James E. Jake Hoffman Memorial Soccer Scholarship. You may remember that we lost James Hoffman last year. And we did offer a scholarship last year in his name as well, but this one is specifically for a soccer scholarship, and the amount is 2 scholarships in the amount of $1,000 each if they are going off to a 4-year college, or $500 if they are going off to a 2-year college. It would be for a graduating senior who played varsity soccer, one male and one female. Each candidate should have proven leadership skills and also be a team player. They should be kind, generous, and enthusiastic about the world around them. The prospective recipient should submit a 500-word typed essay entitled, "What Key Attributes Have You Developed Playing High School Soccer, and How Will You Apply These Attributes in the Life Ahead of You?" The recipient should be attending a 2- or 4-year college, and preference will be given to a 4-year applicant and possibly a captain of the team.
So it's my recommendation that you accept this scholarship.
I move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to mention that that while I didn't know Jake Hoffman, I knew many students who did know him and were devastated by his loss last year. And I think that this is a wonderful way to continue to remember a really fine young man.
I agree. And it's being offered by Jake's parents, Dave and Ann Hoffman.
Thank you. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Unanimous. Thank you, and thank you to Dave and Ann Hoffman for their generous scholarship.
And the next, not a scholarship, but a donation. Would you
There's
like
a
to read the donation?
So we have a donation from the 2013 Educational Alliance Math and Science Grant recipient, our local service station, ExxonMobil. Mr. Randy Ellis submitted the Stoughton High School to be the recipient. He applied for us to be the recipient, and we were granted it. He has handed over a check in the amount of $500, and it is to be used by the math and science departments.
And I recommend that you accept this donation.
Move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Again, thank you, Mr. Ellis, for considering us as a recipient.
Thank you. Is that it?
And I believe for you, that is it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Always.
Very informative. Thank you.
On item number 6 on the
There
agenda.
is another donation from the Daw School PTO. And this is in the amount of $300 to be used towards the Daw School Enrichment Program. And I would recommend that you accept this donation from the Daw PTO.
Move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And again, thank you, Daw School PTO.
They will be
Very
getting a
generous.
thank you note in the
Yes.
morning.
It's great.
Now we have a very brief introduction to SchoolNet from Mr. Ford.
And I promise to be brief. Unlike our last presentation, might have went over a bit. But I did want to bring you up to speed on our implementation of SchoolNet. We have discussed it briefly in the past, and just to remind you, SchoolNet is an advanced assessment tool that we've integrated into PowerSchool, which is a district data management system. And what SchoolNet allows us to do is integrate all of our assessments within the system. And in just a brief synopsis of how a teacher would use it, is a teacher could actually use SchoolNet to generate an assessment. And when they generate the assessment, the difference between just writing a test and generating an assessment in SchoolNet is actually all the questions that are utilized through SchoolNet will be tied to a standard. So that standard is then tied to our curriculum. So when the teacher generates a test and they give it to their kids, and then they put it through the computer grades a test, it actually then gives them a breakdown on student performance, but also tells you how all the kids did against a specific learning objective. So when a teacher looks at the results of the test in aggregate, they can actually identify where their kids did well and where they didn't do well. So the teacher then has the ability to go back and modify how they're teaching the course, or we can take a look at the curriculum to make sure our curriculum is complete and coherent. And what it does, it just generates a lot of information. So the giving a test isn't simply an assessment of how the kid's doing, but it actually becomes a useful tool for generating information on how our teachers are doing, and how our school district is doing, and how an individual school is doing against the aggregate. And it's a fairly incredible system. At this point, we've got a little over 20 teachers trained in using the tool. We have a pilot team in place. We'll be actually later this month piloting some midterms. So the nice thing about it is right now most of it's going to be done paper and pencil. You can generate your test, generate a Scantron, so that you give the test, you just run them through a scanner, and automatically the results of the test go right to the teacher's gradebook.
Great.
Which is nice. Now for our midterms, which are benchmark tests, we actually then will have those tests come right back into the district database. So we actually have benchmark assessments so that we can determine how our kids are doing. And what's going on right now is we're looking to finalize benchmarks through the whole secondary academic core, math, English, history, science, for midterms and for finals. So as a district, beginning next year, we'll be able to go back twice and take an internal look at how we're doing it in the whole academic core. And that allows us then to reflect on our instructional practices, reflect on our curriculum, reflect on interventions and advice interventions. So virtually every year in the middle of the year, we can look at our whole core, look at how all of our kids perform. And if we have kids that don't meet a certain threshold, we can immediately step in and provide them with remediation. We can design instruction. We can come back and modify our curriculum that year in real time so that we can go back and address whatever this perceived issue is before the end of the school year. So it's like a huge safety net we create. The other nice thing about it is as we move forward, it's actually an online assessment. And I know a lot of people are parents. If you have a student at the secondary level or in the secondary schools, there's a parent portal where a parent can go through and look in real time at how their kids are doing, look in the grade books, see the assessments, and know what's going on. There's actually a student piece as well. So a teacher can then, when they do a test, you can actually send the test to the student through the student portal. So the student can then log in and actually take the assessment online, a test, a midterm, whatever it might be. And it's instantaneously, once the student finishes the test, uploaded to the teacher's gradebook. The data flows into the district. It's remarkable. You know, right now the process is we're looking at how effective is it for a teacher to generate tests? How long does it take? What are the things that we need to do to our system to make it more teacher-friendly? Are the databases that we have along with it right now sufficiently aligned to the standards? Do we need to look at pulling over all the rest of our databases systematically from all of our various programs, which we do have to do? So there's a better pool to draw upon, and we're figuring out how we can make it a very user-friendly system for our teachers, so that it's not just a benchmark midterm and final to see how the district's doing as a whole, but something a teacher can use on a daily basis or a weekly basis to go back and gauge how they're doing. You know, how are their kids doing? What kids need help? What kids are targets for intervention? What kids need additional material to excel? You know, we need enrichment materials. And it's just a tremendous tool that we'll have moving forward to really gauge how we're doing and adjust what we're doing in a very timely manner.
Questions, Dr. Brown?
It sounds great. Does it have a component for retake? Say that I took a test and I'm a student and I didn't do well. I had a bad day.
Well, that would all be defined by the teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually it's one of the things that you can do. You can get instantaneous feedback. So a student could walk into a classroom, and if we moved to one-to-one being where every student has some kind of device, they could walk into their class, and the teacher could actually have an assessment waiting for them in the first 5 minutes of class. So they walk in, they open up the student portal, there's the assessment. They log in, they take the assessment, they submit it, like say at the end of 5 minutes, just a quick little assessment. The teacher could have the results within 5 minutes of starting the class and know how to target instruction for the day.
Great.
So you can actually design your lessons so that you can emphasize 1, 2, even 3 different things based on how your students did when they walked in the doors. It can be really revolutionary. And will all people use it like that right away? Well, probably not. But do we have people that already use it like that can then model this for other teachers? We already have them. You know, I'll tell you, Chris Krutros at the high school, a chemistry teacher, he's spectacular. He's already using it. And what we're doing is we're really developing the skill set so that a lot of these enhanced things that you can do once all the technology is in place can be very easily implemented and replicated by other faculty that may not be as tech savvy. And I really think this will pay big dividends moving forward in terms of us being able to tell how we're doing and our teachers being able to get a really good feel on an ongoing basis how their kids are doing. So it's a tremendous product.
You mentioned that you had 20 teachers that were trained on it,
A little over 20.
and they're across all secondary grades and core
Middle
subjects?
school and high school. Yeah.
Okay. What's the professional development cycle? Do people have to be trained by a trainer, or is this something that they can
When we bought the product, we specifically had them provide a certain amount of professional development. And our model is, we use this model a lot, is we'll get a couple people trained up, we'll pilot, we'll work out all the kinks, and we'll have them actually establish the procedure. And they're all very tech-savvy people. And once we work out our procedures and we have them trained, we'll use them as our trainers. So then we'll go out and we'll systematically start bringing over different pieces of the faculty, maybe specific departments, whatever it might be. We're trying to really proof it out with the benchmarks, so big universal pieces that we should have in place. And through that process, then bringing it out to individual teachers. And ideally, with 20 people, you'll probably have about 10 people that work out to be your trainers. And if you have that core, it becomes very easy for you to bring the whole system online, because then it's a teacher going to their peer that's using it every day. They're easily accessible. It doesn't have to be as formal a program. And if you have the right people doing it, it tends to make it a very comfortable transition for most people in your buildings. So I believe we'll have that.
Ms. O'Venay?
Yes, how can the teachers develop their own assessments, or how are the assessments developed? Because it seems to me it would be really useful if the teachers can develop their own assessments, and of course aligned with the benchmarks, but so that they can get feedback on that immediate feedback.
The midterms that we're using, we purchased, it's escaping me the acronym, but there's a huge database that's universally recognized as being the database for all schools or educational organizations utilize, that we brought online with PowerSchool or with SchoolNet. So we have it embedded. We also, there's a Common Core based database that came with the product. And what we're also going to do is, we have, like at the elementary level, we have a number of different programs. At the secondary level, we have a number of different programs. They all have their own databases. They all have their own test generators. We can systematically bring them into the system as well. And they should all be fairly well aligned. If they're not aligned, we can line them up. Now, a teacher they can create all their own questions as well. The only difference in this than it would be under the old style of doing is, you would simply, instead of just putting in the question, you would then go find how the question relates to a benchmark, to a standard or something either in the curriculum or in the frameworks, and you would put that piece in.
Okay.
That way you have the capacity to track the question against a standard. So if your kids do great on it, I killed that standard. It was, look at the work we did. Or if the kids, perhaps didn't give you the results you wanted, where you can go back and focus either your pedagogy, all right, so how you're providing the instruction, or you can go back and actually identify it as there's a gap in the curriculum. So we need to go back and get a team of teachers together and go back and fill in that gap or address that gap. So it's just a useful tool, and it also helps you weed out, is it a question of instruction, or is it a question of curriculum? What is it? But ultimately what it's giving you is information. And it's information that we've never had before, and you can garner the information all the time now. And one of the things that we've been working on for the last year and a half is establishing data teams, where teachers, there's this, historically, teachers, although they work in a school, say the high school, with 90 other teachers and 1,200 students, you really do tend to work in isolation, because it's you and your kids, and the day runs its course, and you don't actually have a lot of time to get out and have conversations, because you're delivering all day long, And what we've been working on is data teams. So we're getting teachers together that teach similar topics, similar subjects, in looking at the data, like devising an assessment, looking at how our kids did, then talking about why kids maybe did better in one class than another, what strategy did you use, how did you address this. So you're always talking about what you can do to improve or what strategies work. And it also goes a long way to breaking down the isolation of being in a classroom. So you're constantly talking to your peers and bouncing off ideas and really always improving as a teacher. And one of the nice things about SchoolNet, it makes it very easy to get data to then have those conversations. So you're working to collaborate with your peer. You're not spending time figuring out an assessment, typing an assessment, photocopying an assessment, giving it, grading it, all this. You can quickly sit down, generate something tied to the standards. You can give it, instantaneously get the data, and spend your time talking about what allowed you to do well, or what you can do to improve your instruction, as opposed to just, writing the assessment itself and then grading it and everything else. And we think that this piece will go a long way into really shaping the professional conversations, breaking down the barriers between classrooms, and keeping people focused on improvement, as opposed to a lot of the other minutiae that affects teachers historically.
I'm sorry. And the last question is, how will we be able to measure the success of the implementation of this program? What are the measurements? How are we going to know, and kind of in what period of time?
Well, the success of this program isn't really going to be measured in the program itself. it's going to be measured in our ability to improve what we do as a school district. Because this is just, this system is about giving you information. I mean, the system's going to work. I mean, we'll have to work out the technical glitches as they're identified. I don't think it'll be a big deal. But really, you know, the success here will be all of our ability to look at what's strong, where we need to improve, and actually go about improving the education that all kids receive. So you would measure success by the incremental gains in our test scores, by a decrease in our dropout rate, by an increase in the level of instruction our teachers provide, by a more responsive system where when kids are struggling, that we can get services in place to help them. You know, it doesn't do you any good if, you know, if a student starts to struggle. Say, one of the things about this, say, you know, God forbid, you know, I was a high school principal, and you know, you would occasionally have a student where all of a sudden the grades start to tank. You know, something's wrong. Maybe the parents are getting a divorce, or you know, something's happened where they start to struggle in school, and they struggle in all their classes. But it may take you a month or 2 months to figure it out, and it might be, you know, 2 teachers talking in a break room about, you know, did you see what happened? I wonder why he's struggling. All of a sudden you start putting it together. But you start to figure out there's something wrong. You start to figure out is there anything we can do to help? You know, like this system would then can actually correlate all that stuff for you. And as a teacher, you can walk in and your class can come up and there'll be a dashboard of your students. And it'll let you know when the grades aren't matching the profile for that student, or when across the board, you know, there's a correlation between different classes, so that if something's wrong, you know, you can attempt to help that person before a month or 2 months or 3 months has passed, and say they've already dug themselves an insurmountable hole in their grade. You know, how do you motivate a student that already feels like they failed, or doesn't feel like that they can then be successful in the year? And ideally, you can get to it earlier and prevent yourself from ever being in that position, and really help people when they need help. And it's, you know, we believe it will do all the things that we're hoping it will do. If it doesn't, Pearson's incredibly responsive when we let them know we need something adjusted or we need some kind of capacity. And they've also told us if there's something that it won't do for us, that they'll send somebody out here and, you know, rewrite the script or adjust the program so we can get what we need out of it.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Dillon.
Just one question. 2 teachers teaching the same course, would they be creating an individual test for their class, or would this be a combined test given by 2 different teachers in 2 different classrooms?
Yes. It's anything we want to do.
Anything.
So it's anything you want to do?
And what we're hoping is people use it individually on an ongoing basis to gauge their own performance, and they periodically, as a group, you know, across a course or grade level, do something together or across the whole school district, so that you can see how you're doing compared to everybody else, and then have that discussion about the data. You know, what are you seeing? So then, you know, why was one person more successful than somebody else?
Dr. Earl.
So this is, we already have the Power School. Now we are new with the SchoolNet.
Yeah, this is a module that sits on top of the basic
So
software.
they are both provided by Pearson?
They are.
Power School is also Pearson?
Yep.
And the way I see this is one more tool for the teachers to save time, streamline the process, and maybe make it more uniform across the teachers, and also allow the administrators some access to what's going on and the student achievement.
It allows everybody a tool to gauge how we're doing. The teacher in the classroom, the principal running the building, or the district as a whole.
That's great. Thank you.
Jason?
Dr. Brown.
What I like about it, it saves on professional development, because once you train trainers, then you can bring them back to the building. Saves you a lot of money in that area.
Definitely.
I mean, the only thing I have to add is that I'm particularly pleased to see this type of a formative tool at the secondary level, where the focus has been on those tools at the primary level. Nice to see it filtering. I think we're done with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business. The facilities meeting, the facilities update. We actually have a representative of the facilities committee here. Do not run. Mr. Fitzgerald, if you would please come forward, because I must admit that I actually didn't pull out my notes from the last facilities meeting before this meeting, and other than the fact that we discussed in depth the articles that were being brought forward at the facility meeting, I'm sure you would probably like to embellish on that.
Certainly. There were 5 articles that have been submitted for the annual town meeting. We heard the 5 articles last night in the Rules Committee.
Did.
They're all inserted to be assigned to the Finance Committee, and those will be coming up. I think the Finance Committee hearings probably will not start until the middle to end of February.
Okay.
But Howard did provide us with a schedule, a calendar. Front sheet is, as everybody knows, is town meeting schedule, and on the back, all of the committee schedule. So, and they all went in. We just, under the Rules Committee, all we do is we just assign them. So
Okay. Well, thank you for doing that.
So you only assigned it to FinCom?
they only go to finance.
Okay.
That's all. That's all they need. There's nothing to do with any of the other committees, municipal regs, or municipal operations. So they're all set to go.
Okay. And just for, again, the public's knowledge, that we submitted the additional amounts for the 3 articles that are currently under the Accelerated Repair Program,
Yes.
SOIs. And on those articles, I haven't spoken with Mr. Harding at any length since the holiday break, so I'm not sure if he's heard back. I know we were waiting for estimates from one roofer to adjust those numbers, and the numbers that we submitted will be adjusted on those 3 articles significantly. We do know that we just don't know at this, but we certainly hope that we have a final number to add to it or to amend before.
Yeah, if we can have those numbers, obviously the best time to have those numbers are when you go into the budget, not the budget hearings, but
FinCom.
the FinCom hearing. So out of the 5, we don't have to attend any other of the meetings, just the Finance Committee. And at that time there, we can present it, and if there's adjustments, they can be made then
And
and finalize it. They'll go in with their recommendation.
And the 2 new articles were for the roof and the windows at the Gibbons,
Correct.
which were the next priority on the facility master plan list.
Yes.
So it's working very well. Just so everybody understands, though, just a little, if I can, I wasn't expecting to speak, but just so everybody understands, and the people at home and the people here, this is all coming from the facilities master plan, and this was what was done, and it's being set up, and it's being worked very, very well, and it's keeping the buildings going and keeping everything up to date. So that's what it's there for.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the feasibility study update, and for that I will ask Ms. Sauvanet if you have any updates.
Well, nothing really new, except that we have gotten some favorable feedback from the School Building Authority. I've been in weekly contact with our legislators. If they only choose a tiny number of schools, and if if the high school application doesn't make it this year, we will resubmit. But again, our feasibility study and the work on the high school and the South School comes directly out of the facilities master plan and also the NEASC report. So, you know, as we hear, yes, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and as we hear, we will update everyone.
Thank you. And on the wellness update, the Wellness Committee met. They are only meeting quarterly, I believe, this year. And unlike last year when we had a great number of state mandates around nutrition, food, there is not much to tackle, so we have decided to focus on employee health in that we are looking at providing a comprehensive health fair. And unfortunately, it would run best if we're scheduled, say, coincide with a professional development type thing. But because our professional development is booked for this school year, we are hoping to target something very early the following school year, and working with a number of local agencies, groups, businesses that all have wonderful ideas and are willing to contribute. And we had an update from the Box program, which is being currently run at the South School. I believe she says she had 32 students in the first group. They're going to be running a second session right away, and still are hoping to be able to spread that model to other schools that would be interested. So, you know, the trial went great last year. The implementation went great this year. I know it's running at your school. 32 is about an optimum number. To do any more than that just gets a little bit unwieldy. To try to corral everybody and to have the physical space to do it. But we're pleased that they've been able to help us with that.
We did a staff wellness fair the last professional development day of my last year as assistant superintendent, and that now was 5 years ago. And we had all kinds. We had gyms come. We had kickboxing. So people could try meditation, yoga, tai chi, all kinds of things. And that was one afternoon. We've had quite a lot of turnover since that time, and it's very, very, very difficult for our teachers to find the time and ways to take care of themselves. So that's a
Absolutely.
fantastic focus for the wellness
And in
committee.
addition to those types of things, we've already had the services volunteered for the blood glucose, blood pressure, the skin screening, the Lions Club eye screening.
fantastic.
There have been a number of people who've come forward, so we're really just trying
That's
to
awesome.
corral it all and put it in one kind of doable chunk to offer. So we're very excited about that prospect. But other than that, we can move on to correspondence. And
Nothing.
nope, there is no correspondence.
No correspondence.
Excellent.
Nobody's writing to us. They don't like us.
All right. Acceptance of minutes. We have several. Let us start with, and they're not in the same order in my packet, let us start with the regular meeting of October 8th. So if anybody is willing to,
Make a motion, we accept as printed.
Second.
any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Regular meeting minutes of October 22nd.
Make a motion, we accept as printed.
I think I had a question.
Okay.
That's the October, we're doing October 22nd?
22nd.
Okay. It's just the minutes say Dr. Rizzi read a statement, and that's appended to the minutes. But I didn't see that. It may be a good idea either to include it in here or add it to the list of documents. You know what I'm talking about?
Right, the list of documents.
Yeah, either way, I don't know, whatever is convenient to Ms. Shea. I would be comfortable to say that, accept it as amended.
Amended, okay.
Yeah.
So is that a motion that you will make?
Yeah.
We have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous on that. And then the regular meeting minutes of November 12th.
I think George and I will abstain on that one.
Oh.
Thank you for
point.
speaking for me.
I always speak for you, George.
Yeah, right.
Motion to approve?
Accept or second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
And two abstentions.
Yes.
Then the special meeting minutes of October 10th.
Let me just, sorry.
Motion to approve it.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye. Oh, just one
Oh.
question. I'm sorry. I'm a
we
little
just
slow on the uptake.
Too late.
Go
Go ahead and add.
No, I'm just saying, in the Dr. Earls was going to provide a copy of what he asked to the committee. I don't recall receiving it.
Well, actually, I did.
Okay, I don't recall.
You
You did?
remember?
No.
You're talking about? I can give it to you again. It was the.
Don't recall getting it. I'm sorry.
You, see, that was that would have been. This is. I said I will provide it, and then it would be the next meeting that I provided it.
Okay. When you say you did, I didn't. I don't recall seeing it.
Well, then
That's all right.
you can work that out with Dr. Earl.
I'll work it out with him.
Thank you.
I thought it was on October 22nd. If you look at October 22nd meeting, you'll see it.
It may be in there.
I don't recall.
Since we voted these minutes, would you care to
No,
just
no.
move on?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Other matters?
I have one. I don't know if you have any.
I'll double check it later.
Anybody else have other matters?
I just had one follow-up on the, what they call it, revenue sheet from the town.
Okay.
I know the superintendent said she received it on the December 10th, And then she said she's looking at it before she gave it to us. And December 17th, she says she's still looking at it. I would like to see, whatever the revenue sheet is available. I think the other committee members would like to see that too.
The revenue sheet I was looking at was the one from last year. There's no new revenue sheet, so if you have kept your town meeting book from last year, you'll see what I was looking at.
Well,
No need.
you said you received from Bill Rowe on
Was a
December
copy.
10th, so that was he sent you an old revenue sheet?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other matters from the committee members? Dr. Busy, please.
Do you have the handout for that one? Yes, I went this morning to a presentation by the Remy Center, and the Remy Center is an organization that does educational research and policy recommendations, and they work for the state, and they're funded by a number of different foundations, and they do a lot of research, which we see a great deal of, and a lot of the districts in the state use. You're getting a handout, and the reason you're getting it now and didn't get it Friday is because I actually went this morning and just came back with these at noontime. And what this particular presentation by the Rennie Center, they were looking at ways in which districts are using funds that they already have to do innovative programming. So the premise they started with is there may not be a lot of new money around. What are people doing with the money that they already have? And the way that they chose to get information for the study, they asked the state if they could look at the Title I grants for this year. So they read all of the Title I grants for the state of Massachusetts. And they were looking at those to see what people are doing that are innovative, exciting, and can be shared with other districts. So I'm happy to say that the primary slide for their presentation, which is also in the presentation material that they sent out to all the districts who subscribe and all the other educators who subscribe to their materials, they picked 3 districts to use as representative districts doing innovative programming. And Stoughton is front and center and right in the middle. And what they picked of the things that they saw were the extended day and year program for students in the lowest performing school, which is the West School. And there are also opportunities for other students to participate in those programs. We've been working on those for quite some time. One of the things that they complimented us on is using these funds this year, but for plans that have been in place for quite a long time. And so some of these things are not brand new, either ours or the other districts. They also complemented the pre-K program that we are also doing for students who are disadvantaged and low income, and the addition last year of the behavior, curriculum, and data specialist positions. All of these things have been instrumental, we believe, in bringing the West School from a level 3 to a level 2. And they are things that are ongoing. I will also add that some of the things that they complemented the other districts on, Dedham and Westfield, we are also doing. They didn't mention us in that context because some of the things that they're using their Title I money for, we're actually using district money for. So Dedham was noted for expanding access to summer programming for at-risk students. We do that. We just don't use Title I for it. For support for schools that are level 2, which is actually a very good level, and that's what the rest of our schools are, not waiting until schools become low performing, and we are doing that. We already have and have had for many, many years full-day kindergarten. A lot of people are looking for ways to supplement half-day kindergarten, and that's something that we already have in place. Westfield does reading interventions for all elementary students identified as needing support. We do that as well. We just use a different source of funds. So they also added in their material, and I'll just quote, when we're talking about implementing these things, that the decision-making processes of the districts in the case study are particularly instructive. And these findings may be helpful to other districts as they consider which programs to implement or expand to improve student outcomes. So this material has been, it was disseminated this morning at this presentation. There were a lot of people present, And all of this material has been sent to all of the subscribers to the Remy Center material and to 350 districts in the state. So this is a compliment to our staff and to some of the programs. And as we've talked about in many budget cycles before, Stoughton's per pupil expenditure is relatively low, but this is extremely unbiased and very highly regarded institution that is complimenting us on the ways that we're using some of the resources that we do have. So I thought I'd come and share that with you this evening.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Any questions?
I have a copy of the other piece of paper
I will
that you
try and
have?
get you the link. I think that that's
Okay.
all on their website.
All right,
I think they
great.
just printed off things from the website for the handout today.
But-
If not, I'll get you
Okay.
one.
All right, but this is great news, and we've multiple times in the last year, we've been cited as a model either within the state, some of our programs, or I think certainly at least one case nationally with regard to our curricula. So congratulations, thank you.
And I also would like to just add that there are there are different ways that people attempt to make change, and some people think that criticizing and that being negative and destructive can be helpful in making changes happen, and perhaps there are times that that is the case. But we have certainly found that finding really strong and positive things that people are doing and then supporting them in that and building on those things to be highly motivational. And a lot of these ideas have come directly from our teachers, and we will continue to support them in that positive way to help them build on the great ideas that they've generated, our administrators too.
I'd also like to add, not only that, but this comes absolutely from our school improvement plans, and what we're going to see in the coming year, reflected in the coming budget, is not just extending programs for the one school, but for all children who are identified as need, regardless of the school, based on this trend towards data, and it is all coming into play. It is all coming full circle, and it is where I think the public will see us talking a great deal in the coming budget cycle about.
Right.
Dr. Earl.
That's great. Would you also send me the link for the full presentation?
The full committee, it would be
Full
great.
committee. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That would be great, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, they're all here at the bottom of the thing, so I will send them to you tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you. We have on the agenda for tonight an executive session for the acceptance of minutes of, it says regular meeting, but it should be executive session meetings of October 8th, 22nd, and November 12th. In addition, there is collective bargaining strategy for Unit A and a grievance update, which fall under the open meeting law to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. Financial warrants will be circulated for signature. Our next regular meeting is January 28th.
Motion so made.
Second.
A roll call vote. Dr. Brown?
Here.
Sauvanet?
Yes.
Dr. Dolinsky?
Yes.
Dr. Earl?
Yes.
And yes for myself. There will be no votes taken in executive session tonight, so
No.
we will be adjourning from executive session. Thank you all.